Good day, friends. Welcome to this edition. In this, we'll know about the structuring and crafting the news story, 5 W's and 1 H, inverted pyramid criteria for newsworthiness, principal news selection, use of archives, sources of news, use of internet, impacts of internet on journalism. I am Professor Shivaji Sarkar, senior journalist, columnist, Dean and Director, Mangalathan University, former Director, Indian Institute of Mass Communication. The subject expertise Nipunika Shahid, Assistant Professor at Amity School of Communication, Amity University. She has been a journalist with leading news channels like Zee News, Sahara Samay, ETV News and Hindustan Times. She is a continuing English news reader with All India Radio Akashvani. Significance. The study of journalism covers in broad perspectives the principles of reporting in various situations, whether in normal time based on events and press conferences or during news breaking in times of crisis, conflicts or disasters. In this instance, journalists are expected to perform their duty without fear or favor, but with responsibility and ethical considerations. In other words, the journalists need to be professional in their job. Nevertheless, one dimension that involves great discretion, diligence and thoughtful analysis of the part of journalists is during the reporting of conflicts, for instance, war, whether the war news is in their country or another country. Studies have shown that government, diplomats, military and humanitarian aid agencies are increasingly affected by the news media through the issues, people and countries the media choose to highlight in war stories. Indeed, the media are seen to have great potential to have enormous influence over decisions and public opinion as well as national and international agenda. Using a qualitative research methodology, the paper seeks to discover the extent the media in Malaysia are professional in their reporting of war stories, especially when they themselves come from a non-warring country. At this juncture, it is also interesting to find out the nature of the news sources and journalist relationship and the extent of professional values they uphold, structuring and crafting the news story. The news structure is the overall design of the layout of news works. The main components are the lead, the main body, the end. The more common types are the inverted pyramid structure, arranged according to the facts, putting the most important and freshest facts at the forefront, that is at the top. A news report follows a particular pattern in reporting as well as editing. Every newspaper might have its own style of writing, but a general format followed by all the newspapers at base levels is systematically divided into several parts. Roughly speaking, a news story structure follows 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. That is, 1, the lead. What is the most important news? How can you write it in the clearest way and make it interesting too? Number 2, elaborate on the lead, 2, 3, 4 or 5 paragraphs that explain, support and amplify the lead. Key background and context of event if needed, information that helps readers understand more about the news they are reading. Number 4, more elaboration of the news in descending order of importance, that is, more important at the top, less at the bottom. The main impetus lies in the body of the report. Once the introduction has been written, there are rules that must be applied to any following paragraphs. Each following paragraph, that is the subsequent paragraphs, should be about 30 words long, which will help to present information in shorter doses and maintain interest longer. Each paragraph should aim to be as independent as the other paragraphs as far as possible, that is the part of the inverted pyramid structure. The journalist must present information in descending order of importance. To get a deeper understanding, a news story or report is divided into 5 parts. That is, 1. Headline. It tells about the story is about. Number 2. Byline shows who wrote the story. Number 3. Lead tells the most important facts, that is virtual introduction, that is 5 W's and 1 H, who, what, when, where, why and how. Body contains more information and details, that is more details are included in the body. Ending, the closing, it gives something to think about, or sometimes it just trails off, that becomes the ending. Here is a sample article that consists of all these parts for easy understanding. Headline: Train accident forces evacuation. Byline: by Prashant Kishore. Lead or the intro: the Mumbai bound Patna Rajdhani Express derailed, causing 20 deaths on Thursday, leading to the resignation of the railway minister. Body: 20 persons were killed and 43 others injured when 13 bogies of Mumbai bound Patna Rajdhani Express derailed at Sitheri, about 90 kilometers from here, early this morning. The derailment occurred around 5:50 am, a railway official said. Top officials of the Southern Railway visited the spot and commenced an initial probe into the cause of the derailment. Ending: the number of recent train accidents have become serious concerns for the government today. The government is planning some serious measures to avoid train accidents. What is the first rule of news writing? In news writing, always follow the inverted pyramid, that is, place the most pressing facts at the start of the article and close it with the least compelling element, that is the least important facts. Avoid long or complicated words, use simple words. A news story is in the place to impress people with your intelligence or command of the language. Constructing news stories with the inverted pyramid. There are few basic rules for writing and structuring any news story. If you are accustomed to other types of writing such as fiction, these rules may seem odd at first, but the format is easy to pick up and there are very practical reasons why reporters have followed this format for decades. Inverted pyramid in news. The inverted pyramid is the model for news writing. It simply means that the heaviest or most important information should be at the top, that is the beginning of your story, and the least information should go at the bottom. And as you move from top to bottom, the information presented should gradually become less and less important. In the age of internet news, many online news outlets have tweaked this format to align with search engines, but the basic premise remains the same: get the most important information at the top of the news story. How to write with the inverted pyramid? Let us say you are writing a story about a fire in which 2 people are killed and their house is destroyed. In your report, you have gathered a lot of details, including the victims' names, the address of their home, what time the blaze broke out, and possibly what officials believed may have caused the fire. Obviously, the most important information is the fact that 2 people died in the fire. That is what you want to put at the top of your story. Other details: the names of the deceased, the address of their home when the fire occurred should certainly be included, but they can be placed lower down in the story, not at the very top. And the least important information, things like what the weather was like at the time or the color of the home, should be at the very bottom of the story if included at all. Story follows. The lead. The other important aspect of structuring a news article is making sure the story follows logically from the lead. This is the deliberate misspelling of the lead, that is, it is written here LEDE, which prevented confusion among the typesetters in the early days of newspapers. So, they used to write this as lead LEDE. So, if the LED lead of your story focuses on the fact that two people were killed in the house fire, the paragraph that immediately follow the LED lead should elaborate on the fact. You would not want the second or third paragraph of the story to discuss the weather at the time of the fire, for example. Details such as the people's names, their ages, and how long they have lived in the home would all be important to include immediately following the lead sentence. Whether you call it LED or LED, it makes no difference. Lead is lead, that is the beginning. History of the inverted pyramid. The inverted pyramid format turns traditional storytelling on its head. In a short story or novel, the most important moment, the climax, typically comes about 2/3 of the way through, closer to the end. But in news writing, the most important moment is right at the start of the lead. Again, LED or LED, it makes no difference again, it is the same. The intro part is most important, that is the introduction and invitation to the reader to read the story. The inverted pyramid format was developed during Civil War. Newspaper correspondents covering that war's great battles relied on telegraph machines to transmit their stories back to their newspaper offices. But often saboteurs would cut the telegraph line, so reporters learned to transmit the most important information. General Lee defeated at Gettysburg, for instance, at the very start of the transmission to make sure it got through successfully. The use of the inverted pyramid also grew in popularity because as the news cycle grew shorter with the advent of television and online news, readers' attention spans grew shorter as well. Now, there is no guarantee readers will continue to the end of a story. So, getting the most important information at the top of the story is more important than ever. What's newsworthy or news elements? What makes a news story? Pay close attention to these 10 elements of newsworthiness to see which apply to a particular announcement. Good news stories have more than one of these following elements. 1. Proximity. Location. Location. If an event is happening nearby, it will impact the audience more than if it were happening somewhere else that does not affect them as much, say in another state or another country. Prominence. A well-known person, place or event has a stronger news angle than something that the audience is not familiar with. A guest speaker visiting your local elementary school to take over a story time does not resonate with many people unless that speaker is a celebrity like Oprah. Timeliness. Current news has more impact than something that happened yesterday or last week. The news media loses interest quickly and past events become stale when there is always fresh news somewhere and it is happening definitely. Oddity. If something is unusual, shocking or bizarre, the strangeness alone could make it newsworthy. Strangeness is the part that makes things different from various other events. Consequence. If the impact of an event may directly affect readers, they will want to know about it. A run of the mill burglary at the Watergate Hotel was white noise on the airwaves until became clear that the identities of the key players meant for the nation. Conflict. Audiences are always interested in disagreements and arguments, and also rivalries. If an event has a conflict attached to it, many consumers will be interested on that basis alone. Let us not forget that it's human nature to choose sides and stand up for that choice. Stories that involve conflict include those about religion, sports, business, trials, wars, human rights violations, politics, and even struggles against nature, animals, or outer space. You will find in all these there will be more than one different sides. Human interest. If a situation draws any sort of emotional reaction, it might contain the news element of a human interest story. Emotions are very important. These stories can be soft, kid at the petting zoo snapshots, inspiring comeback accounts, that is a narration from the past, or infuriating reports of incompetence on the part of a public figure, that is the inefficiency of an official. Extremes or superlatives. Reporters and the audiences might be interested in the first, the best, the longest, the smallest, the highest, if you can legitimately claim one, but be very, very careful. Do not overly focus on this, create hyperbole or exaggerate claims. Dishonestly here will come back to bite you. Scandal that everyone loves to hate on the philandering congressman who sends inappropriate pictures under an absurd virtual handle. Reporters want a scoop on scandal. Everybody wants to know scandal. No, everybody is interested in the juicy story. Impact, whether it's a peaceful protest that encompasses 5 city blocks or a 52 car pileup on the pike, the more people involved in the event, the more newsworthy it is. Similarly, the number of people affected by the event will affect its newsworthiness, whether it's an adjustment of minimum wage or an outbreak of COVID-19. How to write a news story? Choose a recent newsworthy event or topic from around you. Conduct timely in-person interviews with witnesses. Witnesses means those who have seen that event. Establish the 5 W's and 1 H. Construct your piece. Insert quotations that you might have talked to the people and witnesses might have given you. Research additional facts and figures. Read your article loud before publication to yourself. That means you read it out loud and try to understand where you may have committed a mistake. 5 core principles of journalism. Truth and accuracy. Journalists can't always guarantee truth, but getting the facts right is the cardinal principle of journalism. Independence, fairness and impartiality, humanity, accountability are the other key virtues. What are the types of news reporting? Based on the topics and nature of news, there are different types of reporting, such as 1. Political reporting, 2. Parliament reporting, 3. Foreign reporting, 4. Diplomatic reporting, 5. Conflict reporting, 6. Business reporting, agricultural reporting, industrial reporting, educational reporting, legal reporting, health reporting, science reporting, city reporting, mufassal reporting, investigative reporting, crime reporting, war reporting, sports reporting, entertainment reporting, fashion reporting, newspaper, news channel archives, a unique research source. You see, this is all the archives that are there. They are very beautiful sources of getting something that has already happened and connect to the present. Definition of archives. The word archive is hard to define as it is used in various ways depending on the context. It can mean a collection of items which form evidence of the activities of a person or institution. A building where historical records are kept, also called archive centers, record offices or repositories. Any papers that are old or used infrequently. The act of adding records to an archive, in other words, archives are collections of information known as records. These come in many forms such as letters, reports, minutes, that is the record of a particular event, registers, maps, photographs and films, digital files, sound recording. Is an archive like a library? Is it a library, the archive? No, not exactly, not really. The books in a library are often secondary sources of information, where the records in an archive are primary sources. Archives provide first-hand information or evidence relating to historical events or figures. Subject and author arrange library books, whereas information in archives is arranged according to the person or organization that created it. This means that you will probably need to look at records from more than one source or more than one archive as you gather information. Importance of news sources. Sources of news in journalism, radio, TV, newspapers and magazines, in short the sources. Anything that provides news information for a period of time is said to be a news source. News sources can be a moving person or still documents, such as people who have witnessed the crime would come to the news source, or documents found at the suicide crime spot would be considered as a news source. There are several news sources such as official documents, government officials, witnesses of crime scene and the victim himself. News sources are required for both the journalist and for the audiences. Here we are going to discuss the news sources for both. In earlier days, many rulers used the technique of drumbeat to convey their message to different people or his officials, and many rulers carved their messages on the walls or rocks to deliver their message. Later, in the modern world, all these news sources were eliminated, and then press took new elements of news sources. In today's world, we can see there are totally different news sources. And what are they? They are televisions, radio, press release, press conferences, newspapers, press interviews, institutions such as hospitals, schools, colleges, police stations and many others. These are the news sources that are prominent in today's time. Radio. Radio is an audio medium used by many in today's time. We can see people are relying on radio as a source of information. Radio is prominent and seen in both rural and urban areas. People in rural who can't afford television rely on radio as it is cheap. If we talk about urban areas where we do not see many using radio at their houses, instead they listen it in their cars. Over decades, radio has gained popularity and is a good source of news. Television. Television telecasts their news on television channels through which other newspapers take their sources. It is said to be the most authentic source of news as it has visuals to establish the authenticity. Television helps and provides newspapers to give detailed information to the audience, but television news just doesn't act as the source to the newspaper, but also to the audience itself. Newspapers and magazines. These two also act as a good source of news. Newspaper on both the levels, national and international, provide the best information in detail. The newspaper has 5 W's and 1 H, which gives all the significant information at the starting of the news and further deals with the minor details, and it is done in the magazines. Correspondence. The newspapers have their own correspondents based inside and outside the country. The correspondents keep in touch with their respective organizations and report events of their newspaper's interest. The newspapers have a subdivision of different fields and reporters. The newspaper specializes on many issues, and these are covered by general correspondents. They report their sources, and correspondents keep their organization informed about the latest news. The reporters are based in the same city, whereas the correspondents are based outside the place of publication of newspaper. So, one who is at the local level, he is called reporter, the other who is outside the station, he is a correspondent. Press releases. Press releases are generally used for the release of particular news. Press release should contain worthwhile material that has some news value. A press release should be written in a journalistic style and provide facts and information of interest to readers and should cover all aspects of a specific subject. The release should be on current subject and a piece of clear writing without any ambiguity, color or ornamentation, but it should at the same time not be generally lengthy. Normally, you must understand press release is an official document released with various details. Press notes are less formal in character. These are also issued on important official matters, for example, raising or lowering of tariff rates, price fixation of food grains, subsidy announcement of seeds, fertilizer and various other things. Apart from the name of the department, place and date, a press note mentions headings, that is there is a headline. Unlike the press communique, the newspaper can edit or condense the press notes. Handouts. The handouts are issued on a variety of subjects like the day-to-day activities of the ministry or departments, VIP speeches, question and answers in parliament or legislature and the development programs of government departments. It covers the name of maybe the Press Information Bureau or State Information Department or even maybe a corporate information. No official handout is issued if the minister or a government official has spoken in his personal capacity. Press statement. Known people usually give the statement, then he shares his statement with media and later this becomes press statement. This gives the authentic version of the what person has said. Police station, it is a very important news source. Every event which is of big concern to the police station would be firstly found, of course, where else? In the police station. If the reporter wants to know about a crime scene, he would get first hand information there only. Hospitals and courts. Another big source is the hospital from where news of cases regarding accidents etc. are known, even deaths, murders. Impact of the internet on journalism. The first impact of the internet on journalism is that it has changed the functions and nature of journalism. This impact has been realized through elimination of the role of gatekeepers like sub-editors, proofreaders. Citizens can now access unfiltered information via the internet. This case implies that although the gatekeepers may edit certain information to fit their house rules, eliminate libel or make it fit a certain space, the audience has other channels of accessing information. This argument means that the internet has opened more spaces for the audience. The era when the gatekeeper would edit contents for the audience has been eliminated by the internet, but a regulation is required also here. The internet has entirely changed the nature of journalism today. Now, journalists from across the world can exchange news information in real time. As it happens, you get to know. The internet has promoted information exchange across the globe. Live transmission that is streamed via YouTube and Skype form other avenues that journalists have always exploited. The quality and variety of news items have also increased with greater information exchange via the internet. Journalists are also able to control the standards of their work through live comparison with other international media. The internet, which is the most recent media, has changed journalism just as other media platforms changed it. The internet is unique in that it enhances interactivity and contact with other media. Uniqueness has resulted in significant revolution in journalism and its culture. With the internet, audience and the sources take almost equal roles in the process of information production. Yes, it is produced really. With the internet, audience and the sources take almost equal roles in the process of information production. Yes, its information is also produced. With this, we conclude this session of structuring and crafting of news story, 5 W's and 1 H, inverted pyramid criteria for newsworthiness, principle of news selection, use of archives, sources of news, use of internet and impacts of internet and journalism. Let us close it here for the day. We will meet again shortly. Thank you so much.